We're back live here on the beat at 7:50. On the phone with us from New York is our good friend Joe DioGuardi. Joe, and
good morning again.
Good morning. We've now seen in the last 4 or 5 days a drop in the stock market of 685 points. An announcement by the Fed that it is now cutting another 10 billion in its quantitative easing program.
Right.
And
Not
Janet
good.
Yellen's taking over tomorrow, officially taking over tomorrow the reins of the Fed. We are seeing other information come out still, no matter what the numbers are, unemployment, long-term unemployment, food stamps, people living now paycheck to paycheck. I mean, on and on it goes. But, I mean, to me, when I looked at this, even though we know that the stock market doesn't really have a relationship to the underlying economy necessarily, but still looking at this drop of 685 points, first thing that came to mind is, well, it sounds like the music's coming to an end.
You know, you're absolutely right. Here we have, call quantitative easing what it is. It's printing money. Mm-hmm. It's just, if God forbid we were near the point where inflation were an issue, this would accelerate it. And that's what the Fed's concerned about. They can't read the tea leaves. Nobody can read them anymore. So they're hesitating, and they're saying, well, we better start withdrawing from the $75 billion and start cutting it. So they've now cut it twice, $10 billion, and look at the way the market is shaking, because people are so used to this kind of, printed money and this phony economy that even $10 billion, while corporate profits are way up and everything else is looking like it's good, the market's falling. What does that tell you? The smart people know what's coming. And let me tell you, did you see the poll this morning? The poll this morning, it was an NBC Wall Street Journal poll. 73% of the people of the United States are dissatisfied with the economy.
Yeah.
This is amazing. And here we had a fourth quarter we just finished where they announced that the GDP growth was 3.2%. No one expected it to be that high. Now, for the year, it's 1.9%. So it's just we're just kind of limping along here. So here we've got corporate profits way up, the stock market way up, and we know why, because, the corporations, they've been gaming us, taking this money, or at least the banks have been taking it, reinvesting it, not putting it into jobs. So we know that they've been gaming the system. We know the Fed's gaming the system. We know that the Treasury Secretary, and the way he's talking, he wants to continue to game the system until we have a good count by CPAs. And I'm talking about external CPAs, not government accountants. So the public knows where we stand. These guys who are just interested in keeping their jobs, whether they're appointed bureaucrats or elected officials who want to get reelected, they're going to keep gaming us.
Well, let's not forget that in the last week we've had S&P finally take the courageous position, especially in lieu of past threats against the reporting agencies by the federal government, of taking the position of saying, unless you straighten this thing out by March, Obamacare, this industry could collapse. And two, next Friday, folks, are you listening to me? Next Friday, the federal government of the United States has no money to pay its bills.
Well, there you go. And that's what's got Lou concerned, that the cash flow, they want to limp along here until they get to April when people start paying in what they haven't paid in through withholding and other, quarterly estimates. And they're playing this cash flow game. This is like when we had Graham Rudman to match it in 1 year. You know what they did? They kind of deferred the military payroll, and in the next they made 1 year 53 weeks and 1 year 51. Well, you can't do that on the accrual basis.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, and others have forgotten this, that the federal government announced, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I read the reports, that they weren't even going to start to process tax returns and refunds returns until after the 15th of February. That means, listen, to me, I bet you they won't be starting to look at returns till sometime in March. You watch.
You know what? I had to file a refund claim because of something that happened economically to me, and I put it in. This was for the year 2009. Do you know that I still haven't gotten even an indication that they're looking? at this? I mean, it's incredible. That has to tell you that they're very afraid of the cash situation. Now, where are we going with all this? It's hard to understand. But you know what? We got the rating services now on our sides. Why? Because this June, for the first time, every state in the union has to put on its balance sheet a liability for unfunded pensions and other employment benefits, even on the accrual basis. The states have not been putting that number on. Now, the rating services are saying, we need to consider that if you want to maintain your AAA rating. Why am I pushing now to meet with the heads of the rating services? Because the federal government's next. They're going to be concerned that if we keep this Mickey Mouse accounting system up, the rating services are going to be hung in 5 years when everybody knows that we are bankrupt. They're going to say, where were you guys?
And Joe, in the midst of all this, the president announces that he's giving federal employees a raise and then stands there the other night and says, we're going to be giving federal contractors a raise and we need to give everybody a raise. I mean, can you imagine a president of a company standing before the board meeting and the shareholders meeting telling everybody we're bankrupt, but we're going to give everybody a raise?
Well, this is the problem.
They take the guy out with security would escort him to the door.
The biggest problem we got is that the job creators are small businesses. They're not going to hire anybody with everybody talking about raising the minimum wage. Now, I don't mind the minimum wage keeping up with inflation, but between the cost of Obamacare, which no one yet can estimate, there's no way. I heard it, from many commentators, we really can't put a number on it. So there it is. They don't know that, but what small businesses are saying, it's too expensive for us to hire people. We got to then provide them with the health insurance. We're being forced to do that, by the federal government. We got other state mandates that come down from places like Albany and various states for education that they don't pay for, and we just can't afford it. So between, the whole idea is that if we're going to have to provide insurance and provide more wages, how are we going to create jobs where jobs have to be created at the bottom, where the small businesses are, because that's where jobs are created.
They're not going to be created. And Joe, I find it rather strange that the media and others are not pounding the table and asking for the reports of the last holiday season retail sales. Have you noticed we haven't seen anything? Nothing whatsoever?
Right.
And you're right. We saw the jump. We saw the jump in employment, but it was all part-time, and then it went away. So we have no idea. I mean, that was their last breath of, or grasp, if you will, at something to put on the books, and that didn't happen. No, the small businesses are not going to hire people. They'd be crazy to. If nothing else, if things were to get better, which nobody sees in the foreseeable future, they're just going to tough it out with the people they've got, right?
Absolutely. This is a jobless economy right now. I mean, the economic growth we're talking about is not creating jobs. That 3.2% in the last quarter, you watch, it's going to be revised downward. We don't know what's going to go for January, February, and March. That's going to be the telling thing. So we got to look at these numbers now on a real-time basis, but we need better numbers. We don't have, from an economic point of view, they got to constantly be revised, but from an accounting point of view, we know it's a fraud. It's a fraud by every standard, and it's got to be changed.